Please drink, something to eat, everyone's comfortable. So I'm Sylwia Rudnik, and I'm the founding member of ISOC Poland chapter of ISOC. And I am honored and I'm glad to meet so many of you here and our honored guests. Our Polish chapter, since it's been a tradition in ISOC, then the closest chapter of ISOC is present at the meeting and opens the meeting of in the country where ISOC chapter hasn't been established yet. So I was asked to do the honor. So I am honored to open this session. We as ISOC chapter being seen as one of the most active chapters in the region, and we think we are quite successful. We've been established in the year of 2000, so it's quite a journey. Let me now pass the floor to Raul Echeverria, who will be leading this session. He's the chair session. Raul, would you like to introduce us to the schedule? Yeah, maybe this one.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Raúl Echeverría. I'm the chair of the board of trustees of Internet Society. I'm glad to be here with all of you, as those meetings have became a tradition for ISOC and also for ICANN, because it is the presence of ISOC members and chapters within ICANN community is very important, and this is a good thing for our organization. So it's an opportunity and to meet with many of the people that is in this meeting, and we take advantage of that for having those meetings and having fruitful discussions with our chapter representatives and members. And thank you everybody for coming to the meeting. I know that the offer of reception and dinners is very big, so temptation to go to other places is big, and so thank you for staying and participating in this meeting after a long day of work for many of you. I will be here until Thursday, so beside what we can discuss in this meeting, if any of you want to contact me for anything, I'm available for talking about anything that could be a matter of interest for any of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Now, Walter, since Walter Rosman asked me to be given the floor. Walter, please.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Walter Rosman, and I'm the COO of the Internet Society. I'm taking the floor at this point because I have two very special announcements about this meeting. There are probably more that will reveal themselves, but I'm not aware of them yet. But the two that I am aware of is that, first of all, we have the honor of having at the head table, sitting next to me, an inductee into the Internet Hall of Fame. The very first class, first class of inductees, Toru Takahashi-san. Takahashi-san is credited with not only bringing the internet to Japan, but also bringing it to much of Asia. He has worked tirelessly as, I think, what today we would call an internet evangelist, but he's done it through commercial and other means. So it's just very special to have you here, Takahashi-san. The other special announcement that I have involves someone else just accidentally sitting here at this part of the table, and that is Ted Mooney. Today is his birthday, and we actually have a cake with a candle, and I think we should attempt, since we don't all sing happy birthday the same way, I think we should attempt to say, oh! have to make a wish and manage to blow it out in one whiff.
Thank you all so very much.
So please be nice to him.
Yeah, right.
And thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Walda. Now, Ted, as you've been, your name has been called. Now, please, I'm giving you the floor. Thank you, Walda. And Ted, please.
Thank you all very much. This is quite an unexpected pleasure. I hope to have many more birthdays, and I'm not telling you which one this one is in particular. I have something very short to say. I think this is a smart, dynamic, and powerful group. And I think that what we're really looking to do at these meetings is to really consolidate and unleash that strength and that intelligence and that power. There are lots of ways in which we can do that in various parts of the world. And I always look forward to the exchange of ideas. Last time we met that I attended, and ICANN, I believe it was in Costa Rica, there were a number of chapter delegates who said that what we would like to do is make sure that we use these meetings to be meaningful, that we discuss those issues that are important to all of us, not just that we update each other on things that are going on in our individual chapters. So I hope that that is exactly what we will be doing tonight. And in order to kick that off, I am going to turn to my illustrious colleague, Marcus Kummer, who will then take us through one of the ways in which we can exert some of that influence and intelligence and power that we hope we can with the information about the World Conference on International Telecommunications. Marcus, if you please.
Sorry, somebody watchdog. No, I am Jacek Gajewski, also from Polish chapter, originally now working as a chapter development manager for ISOC. So I welcome you. I am the one whose job is to serve you and help you in whatever way you need us. But at this very moment, just two things. We have a WebEx session, but you are physically here, so there is no need to do it. You are, of course, welcome, but then please switch off your mic, mute your mic, and switch off your video. Also, when you are using this microphone, be sure that when you finish, you switch it off. Yeah. And then I am passing the list of participants. Please put your name and your affiliation, email, and so on. Yes. Thank you very much. And with this, I really give the voice to Marcus Kummer.
Thank you, Ted and Jacek, and good evening to you all. It's a great pleasure to see so many of you here. Yes, this is an important agenda item for us. WICIT, as we call it, through its acronym, sounds a little bit like wicked, is indeed an important conference ahead of us. As a way of background, the last treaty dates back to 1988, and that is indeed a long time ago, light years back. And now we're in the process of revising it. The 1988 treaty, as the ITU keeps telling us, paved the way for liberalization of the telecom market and indirectly also allowed for the development of the internet. There is certainly much truth in that, but you could at the same time argue if you have a liberalized environment, you don't need any treaty to determine the regulation anymore. And we are quite happy with the status quo, as based on the 1988 treaty, the internet indeed was allowed to flourish and the internet works. That is, I think, a very good argument to say that there is no radical change needed. There were positive elements that followed after the Melbourne Treaty in '88. I mean, there was clearly more transparency, more competition. There was a move to independent regulation in the telecom environment. But all these things were not enshrined in the treaty. So if the revision of the treaty this year brings all these positive elements to the fore, fine. But you could safely argue, governments might decide there's no need for a treaty on regulation at all. And there are precedents. In 1998, the OECD had a ministerial conference on e-commerce, and the ministers then decided in their wisdom there's no need for regulation. It might actually be harmful to this new element that was emerging, e-commerce. So it would be better to let it grow and then maybe see later whether there would be any need for further regulation. Same thing happened in a World Trade Organization. Minister decided not to regulate on trade in e-commerce. So do we need a new treaty? Is a question one can ask, but I don't think that ministers gathered in Dubai will come to the conclusion that it would be wise not to agree on a treaty, as this would be seen as a failure. But I make this contrast that the 1998 OECD and WTO ministerials did not agree because they could not agree. They agreed not to agree on the treaty because it would be premature and it might be harmful. Okay, this was a relatively lengthy introduction. Where are we now? There was a lengthy preparatory process. The last prep meeting ended last week in Geneva. All the proposals that were put forward are now sort of assembled in a document. I think there are 250 pages for what should be basically a fairly concise treaty. The last one was less than 20 pages. But there was no substantive discussion on what was needed. It was basically just a very bookkeeper's process to assemble the proposals, to agree on the report that will be put forward to the conference, and it will be then left to governments to decide in Dubai. We have done what I think is some useful work. We have actually looked at all the various proposals, dissected them, and analyzed what kind of impact they would have on the internet. And I know many of you are on the various lists we have to inform our members on what is being discussed. But the fact is that these are discussions behind closed doors. ISOC, we are a sector member, so we have access to the documents, we have access to the discussions, but the papers are restricted. They are not publicly available, and that has led to some sort of outcry among civil society. We have discussed very closely with some of these civil society groups. We have shared information, but we have not associated ourselves to the open letter that was started by the Center of Democracy and Technology, because we do have access to the documents, and you also have to behave a little bit differently if you're allowed in the room, differently from whether you are outside the room and you bang on the door to be allowed in. And this it gives me a sort of introduction to another flashback. 10 years ago, we started the process of the World Summit on the Information Society. And then, although it was actually in the General Assembly resolution, it was mentioned that civil society and the business sector should participate, but to begin with, they were not allowed into the room with governments. And 10 years ago, in July 2002, we started this, the first PrepCom in Geneva, and there are some veterans of the WSIS process here also in the room. Our chairman, first and foremost, he's an old veteran. See Carlos Afonso, Alejandro, and Stefano, many others. You remember these discussions. There was civil society banging on the doors. Please let us in. We have a word to say here. And it was interesting, in the course of the WSIS process, gradually the doors opened more and more. And in the final phase in Tunis, people were all in the room. There were no behind closed doors negotiations anymore. However, the decisions were still taken by governments. But by then, actually, the chairman of the final negotiating committee, occasionally he asked representatives of the internet community maybe to explain a technical detail. So that was a great step forward. And then in Tunis, already in Geneva, there was the general recognition that internet governance, there was a definition was adopted on internet governance that said basically anything, all the processes to do with the physical, logical infrastructure on the use of the internet is part of internet governance, and that should involve all stakeholders. And the Tunis agenda also recognized as a new stakeholder group the academic and technical communities. That is what we like to call the internet community. However, this has not necessarily transformed into the proceedings of all the international organization. You're all here attending the ICANN meeting, and that truly involves all stakeholder groups. Governments are involved, businesses involved, of course, the technical community, of course, but also private sector in form of the ALAC. Many of the chapters are involved in the civil society, in the ALAC movement, and the non-commercial users constituency. So really all stakeholders are involved in ICANN. When you go back to the ITU has not changed its bylaws, its rules of procedures. The ITU is a very established, very venerable international organization. It's one of the oldest international organizations, was established way back in the 19th century, and it reflects the diplomatic proceedings of that time. It has opened gradually. It allows business participants in the form of sector members. We are a sector member as ISOC, but it is not open insofar that anybody who is interested can participate. And that's basically the view we have of the internet. Anybody who is interested in standard and policy development processes can participate. This clearly is not the case of the ITU. The ITU is based on memberships, and the member states are the ultimate arbiters of the decision. And this is at odds with the way not just the internet community, but also the internet users want policy development related to the internet. This year was remarkable insofar as we had protests in the US on legislation proposed there to basically enforce legislation to protect intellectual property on SOPA and PIPA, and we had the same in Europe on ACTA. Internet users went to the street and actually they stopped the proceedings. And internet users are now beginning to shout, hey, what is this conference? Now, I participated, I think, in 2 meetings in the ITU where I made the point. There was the World Summit on the Information Society. They established their principles, and anything related to internet governance should be dealt with in an open, transparent, and inclusive fashion and involve all the stakeholders. But then it was pointed out, no, this was not about the internet, this was about telecommunication. But when you look at what is proposed, what is being discussed, from cybersecurity to spam, to interoperability, to termination fees, this falls basically under the definition of internet governance as defined in Tunis by heads of state and government. So that's where we are. Now, last week, the Secretary General of the ITU, and let's give him credit for it, he said he will take it to the member states and he will propose that they open some of the documents, make them available publicly, and I think presumably the main document, the compilation of all the proposals. But it was clear at the meeting of the working group that not all member states were comfortable with that. It was supported by many, mainly Western European governments who really, I would like to single out Sweden in particular. They were very in favor of a more transparent process. And I think also talking to some representatives of the European Commission, for instance, they made it very clear also at an earlier consultation on these issues that they think it would be counterproductive also for the ITU not to be more open, as the Europeans learned from the ACTA protests, and if that happens also with WICID, I think in the end it would do not much good for the ITU. And I think the Secretary General, he has taken on this message, but it's by no means, cannot take it for given that the Council that will meet in July, early July, will actually follow the recommendation of the Secretary General. So this is our very, very first and important message, basically to all of you, to all within the ISOC family. Do what you can to talk to your governments, to call for open, inclusive and transparent processes. I think in Europe, I think that call has been heard, but I think it still doesn't do any harm to repeat it, to make sure that governments engage in discussing with their stakeholders. And in other countries, maybe governments have not yet heard this call. Also, a complicating factor is quite often that the guys in a government that go to ICANN meetings are not involved in what happens in another organization. So there are sometimes different silos within one government. They are in different ministries. They don't necessarily have coordination among themselves. And quite normally, when you go to a meeting of an organization, you want the organization to be important because it makes you important. So the guys who go to ICANN meetings, I think on the whole, they want ICANN to succeed because they are part of the ICANN family, and they want that this success of the organization reflects on themselves. The same happens, of course, for the people who go to ITU meetings. I mean, there are people, they go to meeting after meeting of that organization in Geneva, year after year, spend all their working life in that environment, and clearly they think what they, I mean, and it is important, don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling by any means. The ITU is an important organization, and we do need a functioning organization. The telco functioning infrastructure is important to also for the internet. But I said that just to point out, don't necessarily expect that the government has a single view on certain issues. And some of these conferences don't go to the top because it looks very technical and very arcane, and a prime minister or president doesn't necessarily know all the negotiations that go on. But governments will take note once there are newspaper articles, there are demonstrations in the streets, then all of a sudden it becomes important. And I think with WICID we have now reached a stage where we had the first meeting at the a workshop where we brought up these issues in an ICANN context. That was back in Costa Rica, and there was very little newspaper articles on it. And since then, the interest really has grown quite dramatically on WICID. Also, maybe another thing is let's also be realistic. Some of the headlines are counterproductive. WICID is not about the UN going to take over the internet. WICID is about a new treaty that basically defines the policies national governments should follow. And that is, of course, important. If the treaty gives the wrong template for national policies, then that's not a good thing. But it's not about the ITU taking over the internet. But there are proposals on the table that would be not a step forward, but there would be a step backward, and that would ultimately be damaging for the internet. Now, well, I don't know, maybe we should have it more in a form of Q&A and interactive dialogue. What can the chapters do? What is your experience on engaging with governments? Clearly, there's not a single template. I mean, it really depends very much on each national environment, the relationship you have or may not have with your national government. In some cases, we know chapters are very closely involved in a policy dialogue with governments. In some other cases, maybe chapters been newly formed. They may not even have met the government people. But our message basically would be seek the contact to your government, find out who is in charge, find out who is a friendly person in the government who's dealing with the internet. Through him, find out who will go to the Dubai conference. Offer yourself as an advisor on internet matters to the government. And we heard, some governments actually asked us, can you bring us in touch with your chapter in our country, because we would like to learn from them. And really, some of the chapters have tremendous contact to their governments. Where we had the last ICANN meeting, for those who were there, the president gave a fantastic speech, and what we learned is they are very close contact with the chapter there. So they take input from the chapter as part of their policies. So that is fantastic. But of course, we fully understand that may not be possible in every single country, that you actually have these high-level contacts where the governments are actually keen to have your input. So this is, I think, very much something we can learn from each other. We are planning a series of webinars precisely to deepen this discussion and to see how best to pursue this. But we are clearly, you are our most important ally in this struggle to preserve the internet as we want it, and to look forward to a future internet that is based on the very fundamental principles we believe in to keep it global, interoperable. I don't know whether Karen, is she online? Whether she is not. She might, Karen is my colleague who follows these issues very closely. If you have any more detailed questions, but I think I've been talking for too long already, and I would like to hand back to the chair, and maybe we can engage a little bit in a dialogue, learn from experiences, share best and worst practices. Sometimes you learn more from something that didn't work out as well as you had hoped for. You know, what went wrong? Why didn't the government listen to me when I approached them? So I'm certainly more than happy to engage in dialogue. Well, I'm not the chair.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marcus. Now, Walter, please.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have very much to add because Marcus, as many of you know, and his team, Sally Wentworth and Karen Mulberry, are doing an excellent job, and it's coming to the attention of a lot of people. There are other ways also that they and we all can benefit from what you're doing. There is a regional preparatory process. That process is such that in your region, the positions or some of the key positions will be determined well before the conference in what are called common positions, slightly different names depending on the region. So engaging early and often is useful. But the main point I want to make is when you learn things, bringing information back to us, and particularly to Marcus and Sally and Karen, is very useful because of and despite these regional positions, when they get, and maybe when some of you get to the wicket, it will be useful in gauging what's behind some of the positions and what some of the fallbacks might be on the ground. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Walter. Is there anyone who'd like to comment on what? Yes, please, Fuad. Fuad, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fuad Bajwa, for the record, from ISOC Pakistan Chapters Information. It's a small committee which has been installed in Pakistan, which is helping the rejuvenation of the chapters in Pakistan after ISOC Pakistan went into the process of rejuvenation. The concern I'd like to share is a bit behind the curtain what is happening, because you see that sometimes on the front we see what the developed countries and the Western and the Northern developed countries are doing, but we fail to see what is happening within the context of the developing world countries, especially like my own. None of what I say is to be considered as any kind of official position or anything, and I have not heard this from the government or so forth. These are small observations. There is considerable movement from Western giants towards Pakistan. I'm referring to internet companies, US-based internet companies, in supporting efforts whereby they can talk out with the governments before the WCRT and create a common, sort of help them create some common positions. What they have offered is that since they have sectoral memberships and they are in touch with the ITU, there's a possibility that they can also convince wherever they operate in the world to get the message one level ahead where we cannot reach. This is like an additional support they're giving out or handing out. To this end, I can share is that I've been sharing continuous information for the past 3 months with such a small group, which is sort of looking over onto Pakistan. What concerns us is that I would like to also direct this to Marcus Kumar, that this is not the Swiss missions that are going to be the only missions that are going to be at the ITU wicket. These are actually properly designated teams which are going from within Pakistan. I found out that who's going. I'd like to sort of, once again, this is not to be interpreted in like any negative or positive way. I don't have a position on this, but there is sort of a situation developing which might be used as an example amongst OIC countries. Because Pakistan is, if you've seen through the Human Rights Council, is a definite voice for the OIC countries, which is a very large group of Muslim states. They might have a common position, which would be concerning. And as I said the other night in the earlier ISOC meeting over here, that there needs to be an effort, a consolidated effort together, where we do get the message out that censorship or filtering, okay, in every society there's some form of censorship, there's a certain level of censorship, but there's certain censorship which has the scale of what we call blanket censorship. Current democratic regimes may use it for just some specific social values to uphold such public interest. But future governments within the next few years might use it as a blanket censorship tool, and my country has witnessed that before within electronic media. So the concern at hand is that there's more to do. Others are reaching out to us, but how to handle the situation, we don't know. We don't have the expertise. At least for my country, we don't have the expertise. We don't know what within the near future, a position that our country takes might have an effect on all the developing countries in the region. I can assure you, if Pakistan shuts down something, there are many Islamic countries which follow suit. So we sort of set an example for many states. So that is why I was referring to there's a small period of time in which ISOC should sort of invest into actually visiting these countries, just for some good first-hand information. The ISOC chapter information in Islamabad, the capital, actually has people from the regulator involved. It also has ex-cybercrime wing officers in it. It also has very influential academics and researchers in it. And I believe that they've sort of filed their chapter information or chapter application as well. So it might be a good effort to start reaching out to they might not be exploring this, but just for the record, ISOC chapter Lahore information in Pakistan had its third meeting on the issue of censorship. The same subject was the meeting of probably the fifth meeting of Islamabad chapter information. So there's sort of effort, and we need some sort of push and some sort of help and experience. I can assure you, we can make an impact within the next few weeks if we know what we're dealing with, what is our common position as ISOC chapters that we are trying to uphold.
Thank you, Fuad. Now there was Alessandro and then Stefano, right? Please.
Okay, thank you. Stefano Trumpi from Italy, Italy chapter. In our chapter, we have a group that is elaborating on internet governance, and one of the main tasks in this month is just to try to interact with the government, and this is quite easy in some way because I'm representing the government here in ICANN, but it's not fully easy because, and I explain why. First of all, ITU claims to be a multi-stakeholder organization, but this is not as we understand being multi-stakeholder, and I'm trying to explain. Within ITU, we are lucky that ISOC is accredited and is doing such a very good work to try to explain where are the problems, what we should consult, and because the way of working of ITU is they do not know the process of public policy developments as we do here, for example, in ICANN. And there are the individuals that participate into the working group, like the working group 12 for this conference. And then they decided to be transparent in the sense that with the pressure of ISOC, and not only, they rendered these documents available for consultation. But these documents are very difficult to grasp, let's say, because there is not a clear plan that is perceivable. So one should read all of them, and it's not easy to understand those that are more critical, those that will pass the exam. And making an example, the idea of setting up an IP registry in ITU is something that was proposed years ago, then since will not be voted, then will be restored and restored again. There is not a process to say, no, this is not good, dead, this idea is finished. So so an explanation how to address the crucial points is very, very important. And then the representative of ITU in the GAC recently wrote a letter inviting all the representatives of the government to participate in the work. But what they say is for those of you who represent your country in ITU, I would encourage you to increase the involvement of the citizen in your countries, in your national consultations during the process. I would also hope that your positions and the views regarding ITU and the process to review the ITRs are based on actual proposal and discussions take place in the appropriate ITU forum, dealing with the subject and not necessarily on blogs, publications, speeches, and media reports. So they are against the bottom-up consultation of the community in order to build up these positions. And they are preoccupied with this. And also in the speech of Ahmadoun Touré, he complains of the bad press that is concerning the ITU and the modification of ITRs. So we have to accommodate in a different way of work. And then it is very precious, the initiative of ISOC to inform and to individuate the real problems. Marcus mentioned the discussions about enhanced cooperation. I not want to say much about that, but it is a good idea that enhanced cooperation is discussed in the IGFs. And it is true that the Secretary General advised the MAG not to put the enhanced cooperation in the IGFs officially. But now we have to start something like that. So starting from in a bottom-up logic, then we have to demonstrate that things are functioning and that we are able to, let's say, demonstrate that the enhanced cooperation is already functioning, and we are those that may have a real word enumerating number of cases where this is really happening. So we have to be patient. We have to continue these discussions and not give up, because otherwise the other side will win.
Thank you, Stefano. Now, if Alessandro still wants to comment on that. Alejandro, sorry.
I will try
but
to
please, I have a difficult task for you, because we need to short these comments, right? So please, 3-4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I noticed that we're almost an hour into the meeting, and still only in this first issue. I think that we all know a lot of stuff about the ITU, and we can continue sharing it off outside this meeting. The ITU's process is a very long one. It's not only, we're not concerned only about the conference this year, but whether there's a conference next year, and we'll have to stop dealing with these things like upcoming events and have a longer-term strategy that continues constantly interacting with this. In the case of the Mexico chapter, as I've described in the list, in the chapters list concerned with ITU, we have actually engaged with the government. We did a rather, I mean, I wouldn't say radical, but very frank letter to the consultation that I made about the council, which is already passed. I mean, we have to realize that the times are also already surpassing us. Addressing each of the 5 issues that were put for consultation, we included a request to vote for the closing of the Impact Center in Malaysia, which is an absolute waste of ITU money, and telling them, you know, that actually it's like good stewardship for the ITU to close some of these initiatives which only come to ridicule and to fights which the ITU not necessarily can win. So also try for you know, preserve the good role that the ITU can have. I think that we have to continue the use of the lists that we have for sharing the instruments that we have already created, and I'm very thankful and in recognition for Marcus, Sally, Walda for having these instruments and making them useful. We have now a very great challenge, I think, which is that at the same time that we continue sort of this, you know, opposition, this already implied in Stefano and the previous speakers, to become a resource for our government delegations, even without going to the meetings, where they can, you know, some people in the delegations can listen to us, not necessarily the delegation as a block. Why it's not a good idea to get into this, but also make it like a strategy for the ITU not to get into useless fights. I think that's one more angle here. And here I will go to Marcos, who's my teacher of some very, very useful things in diplomacy. But I will also say that we should appear clearly ready to walk out of the process at some point. We have no teeth, not enough teeth in our position when we are always saying we're going to play by the rules, we're going to play by the rules. There's a Stockholm syndrome, and we should at least create enough pressure on our team that they can be more radical if needed, and certainly, on the other hand, not undermine them, because they are inside the room and doing the things.
Thank you, Alejandro. Now, there was one person on to my right. It was Ambrose. Please introduce yourself and keep it short, please. And then, sorry, I'm giving floor to Raul, and then I'll give it back, I think, to Marcos for final comments, because afterwards there's 2 more people. Marcos, can we agree that afterwards they will approach you and you will give in-person comments to? Do you agree to that? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Ambrose Ryoka is my name, from Uganda chapter, ISOC chapter. We launched it a few weeks ago on the IPv6 day. It was a double event of launching the ISOC Uganda chapter. I want to share my experience following on Marcus's comment, how you can engage with the governments. I work for the government and I represent my government in the GAC. And to us, the launching of the ISOC chapter in Kampala, actually, it was more so driven even from the government side, because we noticed that there was a need for us to have a society that we can work with to keep on the advisory role. And we even had to write the letter of recommendation and secondment for it to be registered locally. But all depends on how the members approach the governments. So my advice is you need to understand your local politics, understand who the drivers are, and then you approach them in the language that they will understand. Normally, governments don't want a confrontational approach initially. So if you approach them in the language they understand, based on your local politics, it will always be easy. And for our case, we appreciate the partnership we're having with the ISOC. And the views, actually, they have already now started discussions on the wiki locally. And we are waiting to get their comments so that they can be incorporated into the whole process. So I wanted to comment that not all governments are hosted the process of discussions, but all depends on how the local internet users understand their local politics and then approach their government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was an interesting comment from the opposite side. Now, Raul. Oh, still. I was told there's Shiva, please.
I have a quick remark on what Fawad Bajwa was.
Introduce yourself.
Say who you are, please.
Okay, I'm Siva Subramanian from ISOC India, Chennai. I have a very brief comment on what Fawad Bajwa was saying. He was saying that when government of India, when government of Pakistan, when government of Pakistan does something wrong, creates a wrong policy, other Islamic countries follow. But in matters convenient to governments, it is not only other Islamic countries that would follow Pakistan's example, but also in countries like India would follow Pakistan's examples, because it's convenient to follow Pakistan's examples and shut down Facebook or Twitter to the convenience of government. So it is all the more important to pay attention to what is happening in Pakistan and other countries, especially the visit of Hamadoun Tour recently. And we'll have to see if he has been visiting, apart from Pakistan, other countries, and what other diplomatic initiatives have been happening. And I have a question to Marcus on this. And ITU being a treaty-based organization, is that treaty permanent? And how permanent is that treaty? Is there any point of time, under any circumstances, on any antitrust grounds, is the treaty ever reviewed? And if it is reviewed, and if it is to be proposed that the treaty be reviewed, who has to propose, and can it be done? Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Now there's one more person, but please keep it very short. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, Carlos Afonso from the Brazilian Internet chapter, ISOC chapter, and this is Magali Pazello, is a member of our Financial Oversight Council. So I am here under her vigilant eyes. Okay. No, it's very quick, Marcos. There is a site called WCITleaks.org, which has nothing to do with WikiLeaks. Okay. And is trying to publish drafts of the documentation as it becomes available for the public. And it's working nicely. TD64 it was there the day practically it was ready, and etc. No? So it's an interesting thing to visit regularly. Finally, I am just trying to make sure that we, ISOC, we say ISOC in Portuguese, is absolutely sure of its mandate, or mission, which is far broader than, for instance, ICANN or the ITU issues. We are far more ample than that. No, we are the organization, the networked organization, which can deal with many of the issues of internet governance, which have been discussed since Tunis, since even before Tunis. So we should take this into account and be courageous to even propose things, to be propositive and not just say, don't touch anything and beware of the ITU. We have to go beyond that, I think. It's the time we should do that. And within our countries and ISOC as a whole. And I had a very concrete example today. As you know, FBI and DEA are trying to meddle into the IPv6 deployment. I asked today at the ICANN board meeting with NCSG, what would ICANN do regarding this issue? Because after all, ICANN is the coordination of names, numbers, and protocols. And of course, lived during its entire life under the IPv4 protocol. No? They don't. IPv6 is a very new experience for ICANN as well. The response was, that ICANN has nothing to do with it. Yeah, well, here is ISOC doing all it can to promote IPv6. We are confronted with this fear from FBI that IPv6 is going to create terrible troubles for them. Who should handle this as a policy issue? You know, ICANN says it's not their purview. You know? So it's an issue for ISOC. That's an example I would give to you. Okay?
Thank you very much. Now, Raul, would you like to comment on final comment, please?
Yes, I just want. I think that's maybe ISOC staff could produce a set of more specific recommendations for working on Wikit with the governments. Just trying to address the main points because there are too much dialogue and also materials elaborated, but so probably we need something more simple for working at the local level. Second comment, I think that it is important to know what chapter needs and member needs in order to work in your own environments. So let us know how ISOC staff, ISOC team can help you and in your work and what you need for working on Wikit and specifically in this topic. One recommendation is that it is important that we make people from government to talk among themselves, because in the people that usually attend ITU meetings is not the same people that attend other meetings, other forums. And in fact, in some countries, I know many countries that have strong policies in personal data protection and privacy, and same countries are supporting in Wikit process positions that could have impact in privacy and data protection that's against the policy that their own governments have in other. So it's I think that it is important to talk with governments in order to make them to work as, among themselves and have a country, a national position. This is very important, I think. So that's only my remarks and Marcus.
Thank you, Raul. Now I'm giving floor to Marcus. Please sum up.
Thank you. And thank you all for your thoughtful comments. And how could I not agree with our chairman? Simple recommendations. We basically, yes, we will try and push that more to the fore, but clearly what we would like to come out of Dubai is some strong language on transparency, on competition, on independent regulation, and on a multi-stakeholder approach on all these issues. This was clear, for instance, on cybersecurity. That should be dealt with in cooperation with all stakeholders. We, as ISOC, we managed to get that into the European regional proposal. So on cybersecurity, the Europeans say it should involve all stakeholders. If the result in Dubai says that, great. And Raul also made a strong point about these various government silos I had mentioned in my introductory remarks, but it is a good way for the chapters actually to break through. If you approach the people you know in government who are dealing with the internet, draw their attention to that. They may not even be aware that this conference is on the horizon, because you expect governments to coordinate, but they don't always do that. So this is an important advice. And thanks also to Ambrose from Uganda. That was very helpful. His insight from a government and a chapter perspective, I think this is certain we can learn from. Well, censorship, both Fuad and Sivas mentioned that. Yes, we are aware of that. Many governments who don't like the free flow of information would like to use the ITRs to clamp down on that and to impose their views of what one very big government likes to call the harmonious internet. You know, only nice information there which doesn't criticize governments. And our position on that is very, very clear. I mean, we are for the free flow of information, and the internet, the very basic underlying architecture of the internet protocol is closely linked to free flow of information and human rights principles. I mean, the architects of the internet embedded that in the very protocol. I mean, you cannot say the same about telephony. And the ITU constitution actually allows for government interference in communication, but there we talk about telephony, that you can interrupt it, which is between 2 points, but the internet is more than that. The internet is a network of networks where everybody has access to information. And our position is very clear to that. Now, how we can do more to outreach, yes, we have to try. We have our regional bureau directors in all continents. And yes, I think Ted is here and he's listening to the recommendations. But we do have a common position. You know, let's be clear on that. Yes, and many good points were made. Definitely, Stefano, don't give up. Yes, we have to continue. We definitely will persevere. And also, Alejandro's point is very well taken. We do have a need for a long-term strategy. It's not over on the 16th of December when WCIT is over. You know, next year we have the World Telecommunication Policy Forum. Then the following year is the Plenipot, WSIS plus 10. We don't know yet what WSIS plus 10 will decide, but there will definitely be new challenges ahead. So, you know, this is now sort of a rallying cry. Let's make sure WCIT will not derail the internet, but we need to build on that to develop a longer-term strategy. And, you know, we as an organization, we are talking about that, and we definitely will work about that, and also offer opportunities to engage. And I thought this discussion was extremely helpful, and let's build on that. And for sure, yes, and Carlos, let's be courageous. Let's be brave. And also, we were discussing, we just came from a call with the executive team for our business plan, and clearly, can't remember who mentioned the discussion we had on the panel yesterday on enhanced cooperation. I think it was Stefano mentioned it. We can be actually very proud of what we have done, what we have achieved as a community, how we have improved our proceedings within the various organizations, the processes we have developed as a community. It is really something to be proud of. And we have done a lot since Tunis. Other organizations have not necessarily followed suit. But essentially, you know, I would refrain from judging organizations as such, but it is essentially a clash of cultures. We represent the internet community, and they have developed a different culture than the traditional culture of international organizations, which is rooted in the 19th century. Now, yes, let's work towards bridging these gaps. Let's be nice, but also let's be courageous. And let's build on this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. Now I see the next point on the schedule is being led by Ted, please. I'm giving floor to you.
Well, that's a hard topic to follow. And so I'm not going to follow it just yet. I'd like to encourage everybody to participate in the webinars that we will be doing in the future on the WCIT process and how each and every one of you can assist locally, educating and helping to outreach to the people in the government and policymakers on issues of real importance to the internet. Marcus will be leading that and the members of his team, so again, I encourage you all to please participate in those. Announcements will be going out shortly. And since I have all of 15 minutes to conduct what was going to be a lively discussion on a number of topics on which you're all interested, let me first mention a couple of topics in which I'm interested, if I may. I hope all of you know that our Director of Chapters, Ann Lord, is taking some personal time and will be leaving for some period of time, at least a year, and we would like very much to replace her with someone of import from the community. And so I'm asking you to please put your collective and individual heads together on this and help us find a Director of Chapters that is going to be filling Anne's shoes and taking us all to that next level of support for all the great work that you all do. I'm also interested in helping develop our resources in Asia, as Anne is leaving that position as well. So chapter support position in Asia is going to be critically important. We all know the enormous potential and growth of that region and its enormous diversity, and so we're very interested in helping fill a support position in Asia. So while these topics may be near and dear to my heart, I hope that these are near and dear to your heart as well, because we really want to build out this chapter support team to make sure that you are able to do the work, that you get the resources from us and staff to continue to do what you do. Lastly, and while I'm not going to ask everybody to voice their opinion here, Marcus alluded to this, and I think it's very important. We are starting our strategic planning process. And I know that every one of you have some ideas about what we should be doing strategically. What are the key issues that the Internet Society should be engaged in 2013 and in 2014? As I'm sure you know, our executive staff have their ideas, but as importantly, and perhaps more importantly, we want your ideas. Now, we will be issuing a survey, a short one, so that you can all provide us in a formal process your opinions and thoughts about what we should undertake strategically. But I encourage you all in a process to let me know personally, and I can help compile some of that information. I'm hopeful you won't all do it tonight, but in the coming days and weeks, I want to make sure that your voices are part of the voice of the Internet Society. Now, that gives us 10 minutes left in our meeting. And so I have a wonderful idea how to spend this 10 minutes. Rather than bringing up a discussion, I'd like to know who everybody here is attending. We haven't introduced ourselves, have we? And I think it should take at least 10 minutes to do that. And in truth, I think it is important that we all stand up, say who we are, where we're from, so that we can recognize each other at future meetings, so that we can talk to each other over email and other forum, so that we can exchange these ideas. So I'm going to ask Tracy, if you would stand up, and please, because we only have 10 minutes, tell us your name, what your position is, and where you're from.
Tracy Hackshaw, Vice Chair, ISOC, Trinidad and Tobago Chapter. Thank you.
Carlos Afonso. I am a board member of CGI.br. I am an executive director of a small research NGO in Rio de Janeiro and chair of the Born Again chapter of ISOC in Brazil.
I am Magali Pazello. I am a member of the Financial Oversight Board of ISOC Brazil. And also I'm a member of I'm senior fellow of a research group in the university in Rio de Janeiro.
Alejandro Pisante, I've spoken enough.
Antonella Giulia Pizzaleo, ISOC Italia, ISOC Italia.
Stefano Trumpi, ISOC Italy.
I can member of JPNIC as an organizational member. Also, I'm involved in the JPNIC and a member of the ISOC JP, which is just applied for the chapter.
I'm Toshu Tachibana from the tentative secretariat for the ISOC JP.
And my name is Tomohiro Fujisaki, also ISOC JP. Yes.
I'm Tommi Karttaavi, Chair of ISOC Finland.
I'm Peter Helmuth. I'm a German national, but I've been a global member of ISOC since 1993. In recent years, I was with Nokia Siemens Networks, but right now I am an independent contributor, and I'm vouched to be more active in ISOC.
And I'm Frederick Dong, Director of the European Bureau of ISOC.
I have one, yes.
Alors, Tijani Benjama, I am an individual member of ISOC, and I am member of ALAC in ICANN.
Aziz Ilali, Chair of ISOC Morocco.
Katrin Ulmer, Global ISOC member and member of .Berlin. We just applied for operating the TLD .Berlin.
Johannes Lenz, I'm an ISOC global member. I'm also with the .Berlin team from Germany.
And Dirk Krzyżanowski from ISOC, member in Germany.
Barak Otieno, Chairman ISOC Kenya chapter.
My name is Peter Koch. I work for DINIC, which is an organizational member, and I'm also a vice chair of ISOC.de, the German ISOC chapter.
Mohamed Diop from ISOC Senegal, permanent secretary of ISOC and registrar.
Leon Felipe Sanchez from ISOC Mexico.
Olivier Crépin-Leblanc, English chapter of the Internet Society.
Oops, I think.
Ana Ramos, Puerto Rico, ISOC Puerto Rico.
Tol Taras from ISOC JP.
Hans-Peter Dittler, Chairman of ISOC Germany Internet chapter in Germany, and also helping ISOC with the AMS system. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me.
Yrjö Länsipuro, Vice Chair of ISOC Finland.
YJ Park from ISOC KR. We try to revive the chapters.
My name is Victor Ndona. I'm an Internet Society Next Generation leader, Secretary General of ISOC Cameroon chapter.
Okay. Bernie Heneisen, Vice Chair of ISOC Switzerland chapter. As you might have realized, Last time I introduced myself, I was from ISOC Switzerland chapter Information. That is gone now.
Louis Hull, I'm the new president of ISOC Quebec since 2006.
Fawad Bajwa. I'm from a small community which has been evolved with the chapter's membership at ISOC called the Pakistan Chapter Facilitation Committee. We are in the process of creating 3 chapters in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. Islamabad chapter has already been included on the chapter delegates list, and the other ones are coming in the next few months. Thank you.
Sébastien Bacholet, honorary chair of the French chapter, member of the board of the chapter of India, Chennai, a member of the chapter of Italia, Peru, Australia, and San Francisco Bay Area.
First comers, ISOC Russia, information. Alex Sazonov. My name is Alex, in short. Sazonov, founding partner.
My name is Yaovi Atoun. I was the Secretary General of ISOC Benin from 1999 to 2008. I'm currently a member of the board of this chapter.
Eduardo Diaz, ISOC Puerto Rico.
I'm Siva Subramaniam, president of ISOC India Chennai, at least until Olivier Crepin-Leblond and Sebastian conduct elections there. So, and I have applied for a new GTLD.IDN.
I'm Annalisa Roger. I'm the vice chair of the San Francisco Bay ISOC, includes Silicon Valley, and since we're in ALS, I'm the liaison to the Norello of ALAC. It's wonderful.
Glenn McKnight, and I'm from Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, and I'll be working towards creating a chapter.
And let me only quickly read those who, let's say, join us remotely. This was Alf Hansen from Norway, Cintra Sukanan from Trinidad and Tobago, Daniel Nangaka from Uganda, Faisal Hassan from Pakistan, I think. Franz Grabosch from Belgium. Ibrahim, I don't know where Ibrahim comes from, he just joined. Of course, we welcome Jolly McPhee, who made it. Who made it, accompanied by Mary Kay captions. You can also later read the captioning on it. And then we have a Maureen Hilliard from Pacific Island chapter, chair. Paul Brigner, our staff member, director of the North American office. Raquel Gatto from Brazil, Rudy Vansnik from Belgium, our newly elected board of members, board of trustees. Siva is also online, and Ulkar Bayramova from Azerbaijan. Welcome, everybody.
That's everybody.
Please, you wanted to say something?
Yes, thank you. There is one person we've not recognized here, and for those of you who on Sunday evening enjoyed the meal, the imbibement, and this evening are enjoying it again, and we hope will stay and continue to. I think that it's, and who have made sure that the WebEx and the video and everything runs well. We can thank Kevin Kramer. Kevin, will you please come? Kevin, I think we're all convinced, can do anything, and he can do it extremely well. So thank you, Kevin. Yeah.
Thank you all. Now, Ted, you wanted to close this part, and then we're proceeding to the group photo.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know that we didn't get to all the topics we might have discussed, but I think we can all agree that our participation in the WICET process is critical this year, and I don't think it was a bad thing that we spent as much time as we did on discussing that and learning from each other. And I'm very hopeful that in the coming weeks and months we will continue this process of learning from each other, supporting each other in our local processes, and prevailing as the meeting takes place, and we put together a strategy that will take us beyond. So, Madam Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Ted. And thank you very much all for such a big, vast attendance. Thank you for introducing, and it was really a nice meeting to have you here all. And for me, it's been a pleasure. It was a pleasure to have my part in this meeting. Now, please, let's have a nice smile for the group photo. And then, since some of the nice treatment, some foods and drinks are left, then please, after the photo, we can have our feast. Thank you.
But before leaving, let me thank Silvia for being so kind to chair the meeting. So, an applause for her.
Thank you, Raul. Now, please, someone will tell us how we...
If this table can sit here, if you guys can all sit here.
So we stay here, and the group will join us behind, please.
And some in the front.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you.